Hello everybody and welcome to Fantasy Premier League. Hey, it's Super Bowl week and I don't mean Mark Southern's haircut.
Oh, at least he can have a haircut. Speaking of hair, Mark, you've got news on fringe players coming up.
That's right. I'm going to be looking at all the deadline day deals, including an in-depth look at West Ham's new midfield architect. I'm also going to be explaining why the FA Cup draw is so significant for FPL managers and why we'll be hoping for some giant killings. Talking of Cup giant killings, how do you two do in the Cup?
Not particularly great. We're going to be talking more about the Fantasy Cup towards the end of the show and how it didn't go particularly well for myself or for James.
No time to talk about that
No
now.
time to talk about it now at all.
On to the midweek numbers. Really interesting to see that for the fourth week in a row, we had a defender pick up the most points of anybody. Scott Dan of Crystal Palace this time. 15 points he picked up. That was that was from a goal and from a clean sheet. So 15 points for his owners, as long as they didn't leave him on the bench like I did.
You had him on your bench, didn't you? I was quite pleased about that. Not that it made a difference. Anyways, we'll talk about James v. Jules in a minute as well. The second highest point scorer of game week 23 was this man, Gylfi Sigurdsson, with a whopping 13 points. But overall, James, it was actually quite a low-scoring game week. In fact, it's the lowest-scoring game week that we've had so far, with the average total being just 35 points overall. And before this game week, the lowest scoring average was 38, which is in game week 8. So not too good for anyone, really.
We weren't the only ones struggling. Now, a lot of people making changes after the midweek games. The player that everybody's interested in is this man here, Gabriel Jesus, of course, of Man City. This time on Tuesday, he only had 16,000 owners, but the 11 points that he picked up against West Ham was certainly one in plenty of converts. 100,000 or so owners now have Gabriel Jesus in their squad. Mark's going to be telling us later on whether we need a bit of Jesus in our lives. Also, a big shout for Seamus Coleman, yet another assist for Everton's Irish fullback. It means that he's the second most transferred in.
Wow, and most transferred out are these two, Olivier Giroud and Charlie Daniels. In fact, the most popular combination of transfers this week has been Jesus for Giroud after the Frenchman was taken off in Arsenal's defeat against Watford at half-time. So not good for FPL managers that own him. And Charlie Daniels most transferred out due to his knee injury.
All right, time to hear now from Mark Southerns. The question today, Mark, is do we need Snod in our squad?
Yeah, Robert Snodgrass has been one of my favourite players this season. 5.7 million, 7 goals, 3 assists. He's actually ranked third for points per million among midfielders, but he's never made my team, and that's mainly because he's been in Hull City's squad, and Hull have struggled as an attacking unit. But now, of course, he's moved to West Ham, and so I'm looking at how the two compare. And as I said, Hull not the most attacking side this season, and while West Ham have had an on-off season, you can see across the key stats they compare very favourably to Hull City, certainly in terms of chances created. 230 to 164 is a big gap. So you've got to think that Snodgrass in that West Ham team could kick on, could do better. So let's have a look. He's come in for Dimitri Payet. It's more or less a like-for-like replacement in that West Ham side. They're very similar players. They can play out wide, they can play number 10, and also they really are a master at the free kicks, at dead balls, and that's where Snodgrass is going to be a factor. He compares well to Payet. If you look at the stats here, certainly for goals, 7 versus 2, 2 of those were penalties. Now, he's not going to get penalties because Mark Noble's going to be taking them at West Ham, but even so, he compares well to Payet, considering he was playing that Hull City team, which were not as attacking as West Ham. Now, he made his debut for West Ham in 25 minutes against Manchester City. It wasn't the best match to judge him on, but even in those 25 minutes, if you look at the average positions, we can see he was the furthest forward. He received more passes in the attacking third than any other West Ham player in just those 25 minutes. So the early signs are good. Now, let's look at West Ham's fixtures, because this is key with Snodgrass's appeal. And what's a major factor here is that game week 28 fixture against Bournemouth. While other teams could be missing because of the FA Cup quarter-finals, West Ham won't be. That fixture is locked in. And so this is a bit of a mixed bag, but Snodgrass is one of those players that could be key to us for that game week 28. He also played game week 26, and I think he's going to kick on. It might not be a West Ham mural for Snodgrass just yet, but watch this space. He's certainly someone I'm considering for my team.
Oh, okay.
I have to think about him for mine as well, because I'm struggling at the moment with James v. Jules.
You know what, you are, because I only got 35 points this week and I still managed to beat you.
I don't know how this has happened. It's all these points hits I'm taking for making extra extra changes.
Exactly. It's difficult to avoid the temptation of bringing in all the players that Mark talks about, but that's what's happened. You took a 4-point hit for an extra transfer. I've pulled level with you. We're on 34 points.
I've lost 5 game weeks in a row to you. This is terrible. We've not fixed this at all, but now we are neck and neck, and it is game on.
It certainly is.
Game on.
And we both need to do a little bit better, I think, this week. Let's have a look at the fixtures coming up in game week 24. What are we looking at first?
Well, one of the ones we've picked out for you FPL managers where you could be bagging yourself points is Everton against Bournemouth. That's because Everton are unbeaten in 6 Premier League games now. They're on a superb run. We've been telling you for quite a while now to be backing Everton players. We'll talk more about that later because they do feature in game weeks 26 and 28. Also, Bournemouth struggling away from home. They've won only 2 of their last 13 away Premier League games, and they're going to have to go to Goodison, James, without their top striker, Callum Wilson, because of his injury.
Of course. Hull City against Liverpool. That looks exciting as well. Liverpool absolutely smashed Hull 5-1 back at Anfield, but I'd go a little bit easy on this one because Hull have shown a little bit of life of late under their new manager, Marco Silva, and Liverpool, we know they have problems against the smaller sides. They've been beaten by Burnley and Bournemouth away this season, and of course, only last weekend, they lost at home to Swansea.
And Tottenham against Middlesbrough is one of the other fixtures we've picked out for you. It's the late kickoff on Saturday. After a disappointing game for Tottenham against Sunderland, they're facing another North East side. But this time, we're hoping, if you've got any Tottenham players in your side, that they're going to deliver the points this time round.
On Sunday, 2 fixtures. One of them could be intriguing. Well, they both could be intriguing. But Manchester City against Swansea City. A lot of people talking about Gabriel Jesus. We're going to be talking about Man City players later on. You might worry, given that Swansea have just pulled off that remarkable away win at Anfield. But Manchester City have won this fixture on the last 10 times that Swansea have visited.
Wow, so a really interesting game week 24 to come. And speaking of fixtures, let me join Mark now, because there is a crucial couple of game weeks to come which could completely shape our FPL seasons. And we touched on it last week, Mark. What we're talking about is game weeks 26 and 28.
Yeah, it's going to be so important because of the teams that miss those game weeks, and therefore that's going to weaken our squads, and we need to just prepare for that.
And one of the things that has made this even more difficult for us FPL managers is the FA Cup draw, which has done us absolutely no favours. Let's take a look at where the Premier League teams line up in the FA Cup. None of them have come up against each other.
I couldn't quite believe it. I mean, the odds on that must have been enormous. I mean, so they all avoid each other, which means we could possibly have all these teams progressing, which means more postponements for game week 28, which means less teams playing, which means our squads are going to be depleted. So we've got to hope for some giant killing amongst these fixtures so that some Premier League teams go out and we get our players back.
I know, but if not, then it's going to be difficult because you can only have 15 players in your FPL team. However, of the 30 most popular FPL players, we could have up to 24 missing in game week 28.
Yeah, huge names. I mean,
you've got
Zlatan and Sanchez out for game week 26 already. They could miss 28 as well. All the Tottenham players, the City players. It's going to make a big hole in our squads, and we've got to make sure that our transfer policy from now on bears this in mind.
The only thing that we could think about, though, is with certain teams still being in the Champions League, will these teams go full strength?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've got to hope for. We've got to hope that maybe Spurs slip up at Fulham. That's a tough game. And, Chelsea at Wolves, Huddersfield against City maybe.
Yeah.
We hope there'll be rotation and we hope 1 or 2 will go out. But of course, what we've got to think about as well is all these teams could have a double game week after that as well. So that's when we want to get their players in. So it's a good and bad situation.
It's going to be tough to balance our team. So who can we actually rely on then, Mark? Let's take a look at who is guaranteed to be playing in game weeks 26 and 28.
Yeah, so these are the teams, and we've touched on some of this already. We've spoken about Everton players, West Brom players, Swansea as well. I mean, Swansea look like they're turning the corner, and Sigurdsson is coming good. Paul Clement is turning them round. So these are the teams we've got to look at now. So when we're considering our transfers, the 4 or 5 that we've got beyond 26 and into 28, look at these clubs in particular, the ones in capitals here, because that's where you want to focus your attention.
So the idea is, from now on, coming into game week 24 that we're about to come into, any transfers you make, bear in mind that it might be a good idea to get one of these teams' players into your side.
Yeah, it can be something which makes a decision for you. If you're looking at a defender, look at Everton and West Brom. If you're looking at a midfielder, maybe Sigurdsson at Swansea or Phillips at West Brom or Morales or Barkley. These are the players you've got to focus on. I'm not saying that you go the whole hog, but certainly make sure it's in your mind when you're looking at transfers.
OK, well, I'm definitely going to have to think about that, James.
Absolutely. If you're looking for an Everton defender, may I suggest a Mason Holgate Moorgate, he's amazing value right now, only £4.2 million. That's true, he's only played the full 90 minutes 6 times this season, but on 4 of those 6 occasions, Everton kept a clean sheet. Here he is anyway, talking about fantasy footy.
Davo, Tom Davies, because I think he'd be good value for money. Benteke, just big, physical, and he's always going to score a few headers. Oh, what? I don't know, 5,000?
300,000.
It's more than I'm thinking. I've been in a few leagues with my friends and stuff like that, but to be fair, I've never really had concentration for it. Like first half of the season, like I'm in changing my team every week, and then I forget about it. Then I'd forget about it for like 3-4 weeks, and my team would be bottom of the league.
Yeah, it's a full-time business, of course, being a fantasy Premier League manager. Here's a very important topic which we're all thinking about at the moment. Gabriel Jesus and Man City. Pep Guardiola describing
he's looked something special. But as we spoke about earlier, game week 26 is a factor for Man City players. They missed that game and they could miss 28 as well. So a lot of investment going Jesus' way, but I just wonder about the merits of that.
he did look fantastic, didn't he? Gundogan looked fantastic when he came into the side against Barcelona. Then we basically didn't see much of him after that. The other question is, of course, with Gabriel Jesus, is how much Guardiola is going to use Sergio Aguero, who was benched for the West Ham game. Now, Aguero is a player who's picked up close to 1,000 fantasy points in his career in the Premier League. He's an absolute legend in fantasy terms. But are we now beginning to see the beginning of the end?
You surely, I just don't see Aguero being kept out the side. I think he's going to come in again against Swansea. I think there's going to be rotation between these two, and Jesus is going to play out wide in some matches as well. So you just don't know. Again, we're trying to second guess Pep. We've tried to avoid it all season, but it just seems that Man City are coming into form again. We want to get on their players, but the fixtures really stack against them.
The other thing to bear in mind with Aguero is the price. Almost 13 million, which for a player that we can't guarantee a start is a bit of a worry.
Yeah, you're not going to pay that for a risk, are you?
Now, talking about coming back into form, what's happening with Kevin De Bruyne?
Yeah, he hadn't scored since game week 5, but now it's back-to-back goals, and he's another player, 10-5. It's a big investment, so we wanted to look at him, but never really been a factor in our seasons. The assists have been ticking over. Now the goals are coming, but again, we're not going to look at him right now because of that game week 26 situation.
So who should we look at from this lineup?
Well, maybe Sterling. I think his form has been fantastic. 7 assists in the last 8. He started the last 8 matches, so he seems immune to rotation at the moment. But of course, Champions League is coming in. He may be a good short-term option. 7-7, you can probably afford to do that, and then bench him possibly for game week 26.
He's a little bit the secret weapon in here, because his price has actually dropped almost $1 million since game week 7. As you say, very affordable, 7.7, and he's racking up the assists at the moment.
Yeah, he would be a good replacement for Hazard. He's got a couple of tough games, and Hazard's fixtures really improved. So if you want to get Hazard out of your team, maybe Sterling, short-term option.
All right, Jules.
Yes, now coming up in part 2, the January transfer window is closed. We're going to be going through some of the new offerings. We'll be answering your tweets and be seeing who made it through in the Fantasy Show Cup.
Welcome back, everyone, to Fantasy Premier League. You know what? Tuesday, of course, was the January transfer window deadline day, and with it closing, we had a flurry of new players joining the Premier League. But, Jules, we've got you covered, really, with all the new arrivals, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at some of the new arrivals then. Remember this guy? Joleon Lescott, you will if he was in your FPL team. The 6 times he made treble figures in 6 Premier League seasons before. He's back in the Premier League now, and just $4 million gets him into your side. If you think it's worth taking a risk, he's joined Sunderland, and there might be a bit of a fight in that team for him to get in the side. Also, 2 other new defenders that have joined the Premier League as well at just 4.5 million.
Possible bargain there, Ranocchia. In the midfield, well, Burnley through a club record £13 million at Robbie Brady of Norwich. You can get him for just £5.5 million. Also joining the Clarets, Ashley Westwood. Hull have picked up a couple of midfielders, while Crystal Palace have picked up the excitingly named Luka Milivojevic.
Oh, I like that name. It's a good one.
Milivojevic.
Here's another good name, another new arrival to the Premier League up front for Southampton. Just under 15 million is what Southampton paid for him. You can pay just 6.5 million to get him into your side. He's an exciting player, definitely one to watch. Manolo Gabbiadini is who I'm talking about. Yeah, he's definitely one that you've had your eye on, isn't he? Definitely. Also, Watford have strengthened up front as well with Niang and Zarate, and Jordan Ayew scoring 7 goals for Aston Villa last season. Could be one to watch as well, and just 5 million gets him into your side.
Of course, if you follow us on Twitter @officialFPL, you'll know all of this information already, because that's the place to get all the latest up-to-date news, and of course injury news as well. For example, the likes of Van Dijk and Callum Wilson, who this week have learnt that they are set for a lengthy stay on the sidelines.
Right, so a few good options we mentioned there in terms of new signings. So let's take a closer look at just a couple of those now. Robbie Brady, someone who impressed in the Euros for Ireland in the summer. So let's take a closer look at him. 111 points scored in FPL last season when he was playing at Norwich. He got 3 goals and 4 assists in that season. So we know he's capable of scoring the points mark, but where exactly is he going to play in this Burnley side? Yeah,
and that's absolutely key. He's gone into FPL as a midfielder at 5'5". He could have gone in as a defender, but we think he is going to play midfield for Burnley. They were after Robert Snodgrass as well. And in Brady, they've got a similar player who can play on the right or left-hand side, and his set pieces are going to be key. That's where he's going to get his assists from. He can even play central midfield as well. So where he is deployed is going to be key to his value. But another factor here, they've only got 2 at home in the next 7, Burnley, and they are Spurs and Chelsea, so very tough fixtures for Brady to start
we
with.
know what Burnley's away form is like. It's not particularly great, but definitely one to look out for. Now, Mbai Niang made his Watford debut. He's already made his debut in the Premier League in their win at Arsenal. Were you impressed by him at all, Mark?
I was. He looked lively, and Wenger did say he was one to watch, and he warned his Arsenal team about him. And yeah, I mean, he is effective. He's got pace, trickery. The factor here again is, where is he going to play for that Watford team? If Deeney's going to play up front, is he going to be pushed out wide, or is he going to be up there in the front too? If he is, then 6 million could be a good price. Watford will need to get results to get themselves out of relegation trouble, and I think Niang is one worth watching.
OK, and what about this guy who has made nearly, he's made nearly 50 caps for his country, Kamil Grosicki, playing for Poland. He's joined Hull City now. And what type of player are we expecting to see in the Premier League from him? Yeah,
well, he's an out-and-out winger. He is the replacement for Snodgrass. I think he's going to play on the right wing for them. And, yeah, 48 caps for Poland. He's got 14 assists and 9 goals, so his record is good. And for Rennes, he was actually creating chances faster than Snodgrass was for Hull in the Premier League. So he is a creative player, certainly one to watch. Hull's fixtures tough for the moment, but they really do improve soon, and also they're looking a lot stronger under Marco Silva. So I think 5.5 is a good price.
Picking up a draw at United in game week 23, that was impressive. What about this guy? He's not new to the Premier League, but he has switched clubs, and someone that we know you've backed this season already, Mark.
I love to rattle on about Van Aanholt because of his attacking promise. He's back under Big Sam, who knows him well, who will get the best out of him. I'm just wondering whether he'll be allowed to attack as much as he did at Sunderland. We know that Big Sam loves the clean sheets. He got his first one at Bournemouth. I think he's got a taste for it now. So I'm watching Van Aanholt to see if he gets forward as much, because Scott Down at 5'2" probably is the weapon of choice in that Palace defence at the moment because of his set-piece threat. But one to watch, Van Aanholt at 5 million, definitely.
OK, so lots of new players there, James, for us to keep an eye on.
Exciting. All right. Curtis Davies is the CBI king, and he is also out for 8 weeks. It means he'll have more time to dedicate himself to his fantasy team, but he probably doesn't need it because he's already looking pretty tasty.
It does get competitive when we're sitting there, particularly on away games, when we're sitting there in the dining room and we're having our dinner or whatever, and you're talking about who you're going to put in, who you're going to captain, are you going to use triple captain, all that sort of stuff. It does become a little competitive, some more than others. Like I say, I think Dave Myler takes it quite seriously, but he's still struggling at the bottom. I've got, I'm in 2 other leagues. I'm in one with my brother and his mates and stuff like that, which, again, I'm about 100 points ahead. So Robbo's the only person that's anywhere near me in any of my leagues. So I'm doing quite well at the moment. Well, I've got Justin Height. I didn't play with him at club level, but I'm in a league with him and his friends and family. And at the beginning, he was the one talking in the group saying that he's going to win and all that sort of thing. And I don't even know where his name is on the league. I can't see that low. So he's one. Other than that, I've got a league with Darren Carter and a few other friends, but none of them are that good, to be honest.
Looking forward to seeing Curtis back out on the field very soon. Now, let's answer some of this week's Twitter questions, Mark.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, the first one is, who would be better, Crouch, Lukaku or Rondon?
I'd love to say Crouch for the robot dance, but I just can't. I've got to look at Lukaku because what we talked about earlier with the fixtures that we know Everton are locked in, and Lukaku is their main man, not on penalties, but he's their goal scorer. 2 blanks at the moment, but I think he'll turn that around against Bournemouth.
Lukaku, OK. Is it a good idea to bring in Zaha and Benteke, or should I buy just one of them?
It's tempting to get both, but again, Palace won't play in game week 28 because of the FA Cup quarterfinals, maybe, if Spurs get through. So I would certainly look at one of them because their next 4 are very, very strong. Zaha intrigues me because he looks so promising before the Africa Cup of Nations, but Benteke is one of few strikers in that bracket who's an option. So I would go Zaha, though.
Right, Benteke's performances of late not the most convincing.
No, but Palace might be turning the corner. We saw at Bournemouth as a great result, good performance, so keep an eye on it.
Fair point. All right, Mr. Homer is wildcarding, the lucky chap. Name a few essentials, he says.
Why is he wildcarding now? With double game weeks maybe coming up? I don't know. Anyway, essentials. Well, I would look at the players that we said have got those locked-in fixtures. So Everton and West Brom, maybe Brunt, Coleman, Lukaku, Sigurdsson at Swansea. Start with those players and just make sure you're prepared for 26 and 28 when you're doing it.
Just a supplementary question. Why is it such a bad idea, given that we're having to rearrange our squads to bring in players from those clubs? Is it not a good idea, potentially, to
I've
bring
said
in a
all along, we
wildcard?
know we're going to get double game weeks now because of the postponements, and there could be some really big ones at the end of the season. That's when I think we're going to want our wildcards the most.
OK. Mr. Homer, if you haven't done it yet, reconsider perhaps. Another question, is Marko Arnautovic a good differential for coming game weeks?
I like Arnautovic. 11 goals last season, hasn't really produced this season. And the factor here for Stoke is Berahino's coming into that team, and I don't know how that's going to mix things up with Crouch. Is Arnautovic going to be pushed wide? Is he going to attack as much? I would avoid it. I think there were better options in his price bracket. OK. And finally, is there a time to bring Hazard back into my team? Asked Angelo Giral. If so, when? It's interesting that he wants to bring him back when a lot of people are getting ready. He's still in my team, and I'm looking at getting him out because his form is poor. Only 3 assists in the last 5. 1 goal, and it wasn't even from open play in the last 8.
Why do you think that is? Has there been a tactical shift, or has he just gone off the ball a bit?
There's speculation that he may be carrying an injury. He's gone off early in the last 3 matches. He was off on 71 minutes at Liverpool and didn't take the penalty, which cost a miss, so that cost the Hazard owners. I don't think it is right now because they've got Arsenal at the weekend, tough fixture. After that, Chelsea's fixtures do improve, but monitor that. If he keeps getting taken off early, there could be an issue.
All right, super. Let's head over and join Jules, because we've got much to discuss before we finish off the show.
Yes.
First of all, a look at Mark's team.
Let's take a look at your team, Mark. You just mentioned there that you've got Hazard and you're not sure what to do with him. I'm facing the same dilemma.
Yeah.
But in terms of your team, this is looking pretty solid, but you're going to have to make a few adjustments with those game weeks coming up where you've got players going to be missing.
Yeah, that's what I'm preparing for. So I've had 2 free transfers this week. Coleman's come in as the first one. Not sure what I'm going to do with the second. It could be Hazard to Sigurdsson. I could even look at Baines to double up at the Everton defence because they've got a good fixture. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to get 3 Everton players in because their fixtures are so strong.
Is Baines still on their penalties?
He is on penalties, yeah.
Your bench might need a bit of work, Mark.
It does, but Pickford's coming back, and you know, maybe Chambers as well this weekend. So I can't wait for Anachibulo. That's too long. So he will probably have to.
But you really are backing Everton. You've captained Lukaku.
Yep.
They've got Bournemouth at home. Let's take a look at your other captain picks. I'm intrigued that you've got Christian Benteke on there. He did score in game week 23 and they're home to Sunderland, so you fancy him as well? I
do. I mean, it's a good fixture on paper against Sunderland, but then they did so well against Spurs. They're going to put up a fight there, but I just think momentum will be with Palace after that Bournemouth result, Benteke's goal and so on. So I do back in there.
I love that you've got Costa on that list, even though anyone who captained him in game week 23...
I just want to rub it into Johnny Nelson because he captained him in my cup tie. Yeah, I mean, it was cruel, wasn't he, when he missed the penalty, but to be fair, he wouldn't have taken it had Hazard been on the pitch, so it would have been lucky points.
He would have got an assist and Hazard might have scored
that's very true.
As it turned out, he got 0 points, which when you captained him was 0 points. All right, well, let's have a look at what happened in the Cup. You recall that there is a Cup, and none of us qualified for it, so we had to invent our very own FPL show
We
Cup.
did.
And, Jules, I think we need to invent a new Cup now.
We now need to invent another Cup
You and I got
because me
knocked
and
out
James
the first round.
knocked out straight away.
And it's Costa's fault, because we both had Costa.
Yeah.
Had Costa scored the penalty, we would have gone through, and you wouldn't.
No,
This is what's
Johnny had him
amazing,
captain.
is that Diego Costa missing that penalty made all the difference. Mark, though, we've got to congratulate you because you are through to the next round. You now face Andy Townsend, who has been doing pretty well in the last few game weeks.
An experienced Cup campaigner, isn't he? So, yeah, I'll look at his team. I'll scout him out and find his weaknesses.
All right, super. Well, we'll be doing lots of scouting, of course, before next Thursday, when we'll return with another edition of the FPL show. Do have yourselves a great game week, and bye from us all.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.